Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Anthony Russo. But before we bring up Anthony to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors, the Help for Men Brotherhood. Guys, if you're struggling in your marriage, going through a divorce, or just feeling stuck in life, listen up. There's an incredible community called the Help for Men Brotherhood, created by my great friend, Mr. Ralph Brewer. It's a private group of men from all over the world who are rebuilding their confidence, their relationships, and their sense of purpose. Members get access to weekly live meetings, private discussion forums, one on one coaching, free books and courses, and over 1,000 hours of powerful members only audio content. And every year they all come together in person at BroFest, a 2 day conference filled with workshops, brotherhood, and real connection. If you've been trying to do it all on your own, stop. You don't have to. Go to helpformen.com/join. Again, that's helpformen.com/join and start rebuilding today. Now, here he is, Anthony. How you doing, Anthony?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, my friend. First question, Anthony. What does the word authentic/authenticity mean to you?
The word authentic is is something. First off, I think authenticity is everything. If you are going to be authentic, that is how you guide your life, and that's how I've guided mine. And I think with that, being authentic is living aligned with your God-given mission. And I
Mm.
think part of it is being willing to say the things that others won't, and being willing to
Mm.
say the hard thing and being uncomfortable in it. And lastly, authenticity is owning all of your mistakes, owning your story, owning how you got to where you are today by placing it with your mission and being willing to share that authentic story.
You know what's really compelling, right, Anthony? It's sharing your authentic story and being aligned with who you are on the inside and being able to be confident and secure, that's a better word, in who you are and not trying to live a life that you know is disingenuous, unauthentic, that is not sustainable. I tell people every single day, if you try to live a life that is full of fakeness or not being real or genuine, at some point, I don't know when, but you will burn out. So great example, ability to kind of share from your perspective what authenticity means to you. Great summary. So, Anthony, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work you're doing now, currently, today.
Well, you obviously know the sports world a little bit. To start out, I am the MC for Fox Big Noon Kickoff. Been doing that for 7 years. I've MC'd major national events, a lot in the sports realm, as well as getting more into keynoting over the last 5, 6 years. I started right at the beginning of COVID. That was a good time to start keynoting. But I now am doing regular keynoting, MCing, and one of my mission moves has been to be a teacher of storytelling, teaching people how to speak better, how to articulate their story and share their voice. And that's what I do for the most part now. And what I've learned as a keynote speaker is shifting from I wrote a book on overcoming failure, but the ultimate thing that I teach people, whether it's marketing professionals, sales professionals, or people just trying to improve their life, is when they own their story and when they own their voice, next thing I know, everything becomes easier for them. So that's really what I do. I teach speaking, and then I actually speak on stage as an entertainer.
So let's go to that first. You teach people about speaking. You teach people how to share their story, use their words, use their voice, which I'm a big believer in. What does that look like, Anthony? So let's say I come to you as a client and I want to speak and I want to get out there. Can you please walk us through what happens and what goes through the process when people come to you that want to hire you for services?
Yeah. What's wild about it is I thought that I was trying to teach speakers how to become better speakers. It turns out everybody, if you put yourself out there, you're a speaker. When we communicate with people at a restaurant, at a bar, at a meeting, or networking, everybody needs to learn how to present themselves at a higher level if they want to achieve more in their life. So if people want to work with me, they say, all right, I feel like I need to get better at delivering a message. I want to be better either on stage or better to communicate with my potential clients. And then they come to me and we look at what they're working on. And this it started out as a get better at speaking on stage, and it's turned into a transformational speaking class. There's a lot of emotion that goes into owning your story. So instead of just being like, all right, you're going to say less filler words on stage and you're going to have better pacing and better confidence and all these different things, in the end, a lot of it is you will naturally have more confidence when you start to own your story. So my main, I guess, quote unquote, paid class or paid workshop is where we create a 5 minute signature speech, and I think the word signature speech gets overused, but 5 minute
Mhm.
story breakdown of what they want to tell, how they can connect with an individual on the other side of either a Zoom room or the other side of a table, so that they can connect as human beings. And then next thing I know, when they're willing to put themselves out there and learn how to best tell that story, all of a sudden they kind of transform into a different person and a different level. And that can come in a workshop with professionals, or it can come one-on-one or in one of my group classes. And I've noticed the key word that shifted from the beginning to now is it's a transformational speaking class and a transformational speaking program, because when you actually start to embrace the mess that you've had so that you can help others, you become a different version of yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is fantastic. So, what you call signature, I call custom. A custom keynote, a custom title, a custom description. Because I always tell people I share my custom suit story everywhere I go and speak. Our upbringing, our parents divorcing, being raised by a single dad, going through the challenges, the struggles, all these things. I share that all the time. In my journey to Howard, to the NFL, all these things. But what I do, right, Anthony, I'm sure you'll understand this very well. As a speaker, I talk more about my story from the perspective that ties into the theme. So, for example, when I spoke on Friday, last Friday, in Pinnacle, North Carolina, for our client, I talked about how everything along the journey was around me being authentic and or inspirational, because the theme was how to be a inspirational, authentic leader to lead the team. And it's funny, right? I just right before this awesome interview, right, Anthony, I got an email from my client. His largest client was in the audience, and they just hired me to speak on January 2nd at their event, which is amazing, right? But again, goes back to what you said. If you're going to speak, the key is you have to develop something. And again, I love that 5 minute signature custom, how you want to call it. Create something that is about you, that sticks to who you are, what you're about. And then again, if you're speaking on stage, right? And right in that regard, Anthony, tie it into the theme of the event for it to land that much more impactfully. What are your thoughts on that, Anthony?
No, that's spot on. And it's interesting. 5 minutes is that it's a launch pad. So if you can do something in 5 minutes, you can take that same 5 minutes and make it a 1.5, 2 minutes introduction where you have a little bit of your story, a little bit of who you are. And then if you do end up wanting to become more of a stage speaker, keynote speaker, that can also be a 20, 30 minute, 40 minute speech. It all starts with that 5 minutes. And I base it all off of, it's interesting. I base it all off of my 8 week program that I you sit in a room for days on and days, and you white paper everything and come up with the ideas. My marketing has evolved. My the way I present, what I do has evolved. As I said, it became transformational, but the actual 8 week class and the lessons hasn't changed. And that's what I do in once, if I do it in one day or if I do it in eight. And it's finding that story through a bunch of different methods. Like where do you come up with your custom story? Where do you come up with your signature speech? And what it is you have to first understand how you introduce yourself. And you learn when you introduce yourself, there's something that you might want to insert in your speech. And then you say, why are you a speaker? And you take some of the things you say and you realize that's part of it. And then you find your scorch marks. What are the things that changed your life that make you the person you are today? And when you can all combine that and realize that you can truly get all of the most important parts about you out in a 5 minute span so you're not burning somebody's ear off for too long, then all of a sudden that's how you can truly, truly level up in terms of the communication and the way that you work with people. And then throughout it all, you work on little techniques like hand movements and different words and how to start, how to lead in a story. And there's different techniques, but it all really does base off that ability to crush that 5 minute version of yourself.
Yeah, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is fantastic because one of the hardest parts, I believe, of speaking is you have to learn how to do three things. Oh, this is a good question for you. So, when I spoke for, at the time, it was AXA Advisors, it's now Equitable. They're one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Back in 2018, I spoke for them at the JW Marriott right across from Central Park. And, I did okay, but I didn't hit a home run because the global event planner for the organization said, Marcus, there are three things that a speaker must do exceptionally well to be a high ticket, high paying speaker. Number one is they have to have great stage presence. Number two, they have to be able to engage an audience. Number three, to be able to educate an audience. And she told me, Marcus, you were 10 out of 10 on stage presence. You were 10 out of 10 on audience engagement, but you were 7 out of 10 on educating the audience. A lot of the content you shared was very junior level or mid level, and we had senior executives in the room. So you were 27 out of 30, and I got 2 points deducted because I finished my talk about 8 minutes early because I left time for Q&A and nobody had any questions. And it was just like silence. I'm like, this sucks. So I just said, all right, let's go ahead and end it. Yeah? And so that was probably some of the best feedback that I ever got in my career. Because now I spoke on Friday, back again in North Carolina. I had an hour and 20 minutes slot to fill.
Ooh.
I finished that talk at an hour and 21 minutes. Boom. I now learn how to stay on schedule. I know how to fill up the whole time, the whole talk, and I'm really great at the stories that are tied. And we're also good at educating people with information that's always high level or matching who's in the room because we ask the question, who's in the room? Who's the audience in the room? So anyway, I want to share it because you're a speaker. I'm sure you probably understand this from that regard. So my first question, do you agree with the global event planner from Equitable? Great stage presence, great audience engagement, and educating your audience are three keys to being a high paid speaker.
100%. There is it's funny you say that. So this is the way that I always rate myself. I say that I am a great MC. I will be humble on every level, but I can tell you I'm a great MC. I'm entertaining. I've got the entertaining side covered. I am a great speaking coach. I can help people deliver their message and change it around and make it perfect. When it comes to actually being a keynote speaker, I am good and I'm trying to become great. Same issue that you have. It's the entertaining and engagement I've got covered. It's the education. Like, where can you actually look at that audience and make an impact to where not only did they have a fun time, but you're moving the needle for them to know a little bit more than when you started. So 100% agree. And it's interesting because if I were to be your coach, what I would say is listening is the most important tool for a speaker. Whether it's a one-on-one conversation, if it's on a podcast as an interviewer, interviewee, whatever it is, listening is what's going to make you the best speaker. That actually also goes for an event like you were at. You have to listen to, and this is a preparation listen. It's a little bit different than an engagement conversation, but you have to listen to the event planner of, hey, who's in the room? This is who's in the room. Their executive levels in the room. You've got this, and then you would be able to listen to change your speech, your content to make sure that not only are you still fulfilling the entertainment side and the last part, but also the education side. So yeah, I firmly agree. And by the way, you did something very interesting when you were qualifying it. This is one of the things I make sure people understand in the I am sections. You said I spoke at this event, and then you said the name of the company, understanding that most people may not know who you're talking about, but then you qualified them as one of the global or national leaders in this category. It's a qualifier. It's like a modern day name drop, and you did it in 4 words. And it's incredibly important for people to understand that you don't have to be like, I know this person, I know this person from the NFL, I know this person from Global Bank. You say one thing, why it's important, why it was a big event for you, and then you just do a couple words to qualify why they should know that what you just said holds weight. So you did a really, I really find it interesting the way you naturally do that.
Well, it's interesting, right? In that regard, Anthony, it's all about giving people things in a concise manner. And I tell people, as a speaker, if you are not concise, if you don't hit their pique their interest early, then they're checked out. I mean, again, right? And that's my question for you, right? So the event I did last Friday for Alliance Insurance Services, they're big in the insurance space. Awesome, owned by Christopher, great guy. The guy who hired me, he is my client. And this now guy is my client as well too. It was my client's largest client. They are in the carport business. They build carports for people, metal fabrication, manufacturing. They're about 200 employees. They're awesome. The guy that was in the audience owns the company, right? They hired me, and when I called Christopher to kind of chat them about what I should charge them and all that, Chris said, Marques, this is awesome. But what's even more awesome, they didn't even call me to talk about you. They just went to you directly. They say, hey, we love this guy. He's high energy. He's all this stuff. We're not even going to talk to Christopher. We're not even going to have to get in, is this guy good? We were there, right? So my question for you is, how do you teach people if they want to be a keynote speaker, right, Anthony? How to do and use one job, right, that you go and do and use that as a calling card to get booked for other jobs.
I mean, that's $1 million question, but it is the most when you there's 2 stages of being a speaker in the very beginning, which is trying to get your first gigs, trying to get the free gigs, trying to figure out where people let you, please give me a stage. And then the next stage, the next step is, all right, I'm good enough where I'm getting some stages. How do I start to get hired by other people? And that area not as much, in my opinion, the education piece. It's more of the ability to entertain and engage. And what that's most important part is connecting in the beginning. That connection in the beginning where you use the human connection that we have as individuals and find a way to bring them in. So for example, the way that I structure a basic 5-minute speech, which again translates to an hour 20, by the way, in today's
It's
modern
hard.
age of
It's
that's
hard.
hard.
It's hard. It's
It's
hard.
yeah, it's real
Mm-hmm.
hard. But when you look at it, what I teach, I call it the sandwich method. And I say it's a big piece of Texas toast on the bottom, and that is your hook, that is your story. If you can engage with people in the first couple minutes of your speech, where you are not saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm here to talk about mindset. I do all these different things and techniques, and I'm going to blow your mind, and you're going to become a better person." People want to feel like they are learning from a human being. So, whatever you teach, we got to figure out the path that got you there, why you're doing that, and then find a way to make it relate to the whole room. You could be teaching insurance salesmen all day long, but you are going to be leading in with why it's important to you to be teaching this story, why you're passionate about it, what led you down this line. And when you can say your personal story, and yeah, maybe somebody dealt with abuse growing up, or maybe somebody dealt with alcoholism, and whatever it is, you just find a quick couple words that will say, we've all battled illness, we've all battled some kind of trauma in our life, so that we can all say that we're all part of this thing together. But you wow people with your story, and people are afraid that their story doesn't matter, or if nobody, everybody has a story, period. You use that as your connection point, and then from that point on, when you've created emotional connection to the audience, then people are going to go, I'm drawn to you. And that's how you get rebooked for events. Having a PowerPoint with bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, and all the education in the world, if you don't connect to an audience, you will never get hired by another company.
You know what's funny, right? filling an hour and 20-minute slot is not easy. But
Yeah.
like I tell people, what I've learned to do is the stories that you tell are going to be the best thing you can do to fill spot or fill
Yeah.
slot or time slots. And you're so right. When you're speaking, right? If your entire presentation is bullet point, action steps, knowledge, all that's all it is, what happens is people check out. So for us, right, in the beginning, we have a little bit of bullet points around the theme. Then the custom suit is pictures, images of us, our story, who we are. And again, it's not for me, it's for the audience to look at. And then I challenge people, and then the back half is the action steps they can take away. And again, along with the action steps, stories are told that end up connecting that theme to what we're speaking on in that regard. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important part of this awesome interview. If you want to be a speaker on large stages, you have to get comfortable, you have to get confident in telling your story in a way that's not braggadocious, in a way that's not a pity party either. Has to be a great balance of down, up, down. People don't like someone that's all up. People don't like someone that's all down. You gotta have that up because if they see you've been up and you've been down and you rose up again and you kind of go on that roller coaster, oh, okay, well, I'm in a hard spot right now. I'm on my way up. I like this guy. Well, I was at the top, but again, I came from the bottom. I like this guy or this girl too. People are so drawn to people that can be honest in that regard. So, last question for you, Anthony. You do keynote speaking, emceeing, teach people, coach people. Love that. What would you say is probably the most rewarding part of your job career from all that you do? What gives you the most joy and why?
Absolutely. Great question. And by the way, everything you just described is the definition of telling an authentic story because the straight up is not authentic. There's way too many ups and downs in life. So that is the epitome of authentic storytelling, what you just told. Um, my thing that I'm most passionate about is really probably the thing that makes me the least amount of financial gain, and that is my basic Wednesday night things classes that I teach. I call it Toastmasters on steroids. I don't think I'm legally allowed to say that, but it's the idea that I took my first couple students when I was doing this and I looked at the way that I was interacting. I'm like, what do I want my impact to be on this world? What am I passionate about? Like I said in the beginning, my belief system on authenticity is following that God-given calling. When I can start to see people sharing stories that they have held in for 25, 30 years and it's kept them down psychologically and seeing that shift, I used my very first call I made with my buddy Jay, that's now become one of my good friends. And he tells me a story about how he almost ended his life. And it was all traced back to him being an EMT 25 years before and sitting on and when he was an EMT, his brother ended up being a patient that came in as a gunshot wound and ended up passing away while they were trying to treat him. Long story, but when he then suppressed it for 20 something years, he was sitting on a riverbed and he was about to take his life, and then he gets a text message saying, "What are you doing?" Changed his perspective. And when he told me the story, we were on an hour call when I was just trying to figure out how this whole like teaching people how to speak was going to work. And what I ended up doing for him is what I've been able to do for so many people, which is empower them to share their story, which either they use it on stage or not. Some of them have, some of them have just they've just enjoyed their life more. They've gotten in new relationships, they've gotten new jobs, they just feel better. If I can start to create the ripple effect on this earth by getting people more willing to use their voice and share their story, then I believe as though I'm doing what I was put here to do. And that's my driver. And I teach classes with it. I have these fun Wednesday nights where I take people and they get comfortable with speaking by by taking a quote and turning it into something of their own. I love what I do with with sports and being in front of tens of thousands of people, it engages me in the moment and I have more fun than I can even tell you. But when I feel like I'm doing something that is making an impact, it's when I'm teaching individuals simply how to just be a better version of themselves. Something where they're willing to share their story, open up their heart, and become the next version of them.
Love it. Anthony, great interview. Where can people connect with you and or find out more information about potentially working with you?
Yeah, piece of cake. I do monthly free webinars for speaking. That's the initial touch point. If they want, they can go to getbetteratspeaking.com on that. Ultimately, where I am most successful, accessible, go to my Instagram, Anthony Michael Russo. Send me a DM, and I can tell you all the different ways to find me there. But that's the best way. So at Anthony Michael Russo or getbetteratspeaking.com.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Anthony, connect with him, get a call with him, and find out how he can potentially help you with what you're trying to do. And again, it's so awesome that we have so many people that support our podcast. We want to thank, the Help for Men Brotherhood with Mr. Ralph Brewer for sponsoring this episode. Again, the authentic tip of this great interview in life, you are going to have to learn how to be as concise yet information heavy as possible in order to be able to communicate as best as you can. Communication is not about what you say, it's about how it's understood and applied by the individuals you are talking to. The better you are at communication, where people can clearly understand you and apply what you are saying, the more likely you're going to have of being successful and fulfilled and prosperous in your life. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.